Let's talk about back pain. When we look at lower back pain in the game of golf, I would guesstimate that over 70% of the world's golf population has played with back pain at some point in their life. I'm not saying you're in it right now, but at some point in your golf existence, you've had lower back pain. To me, that's enough to set off red flags and alerts to say we probably should work on this. So in the medical world, we're always trying to treat injuries or symptoms, but we often miss the mark by not treating the disease or the cause of those symptoms and pain. And in many cases, when your lower back hurts, it's not the cause that's starting this. So in fact, what we look at is, in one case, hips. So if I have a lower back, which is the middle of my body, go down with an injury, section above it or below it oftentimes is a causative factor for the back pain. If the hips don't have good enough range of motion, the lower back tries to do too much, especially in golf, and that's going to lead to it breaking down. So we're going to have Kayleigh here demonstrate a test that we use with our athletes to identify whether the hips are a culprit in the lower back. So Kayleigh, what are we going to do here?
We are going to get your fists in between your knees, and you're simply just going to try and take your feet as far away from each other as they can go comfortably. So all I'm going to do now is just take my feet away from each other, and you'll see one of mine moves, the other one really doesn't want to.
All right, so this is a hip rotation test, and with specific, we're testing internal rotation. Internal rotation from a golf perspective looks like this. On my right hip during my backswing, that's an internal rotation. Then on my downswing, my left hip internally rotates. If you're a left-hander, your left hip internally rotates on the backswing, and your right internally rotates on the downswing. So when Kayleigh did the test, you notice this one went much further than her right one. Her trail foot is limited. So immediately I'm thinking backswing limitation. And I know one thing about golfers. If they're limited in something that the golf coach has asked them to do, you're going to get it from somewhere else. And oftentimes that's your lower back. Just a spoiler alert, your lower back is not designed for rotation. Really 1 or 2 degrees per segment of your lower back, maybe 10 degrees total. But our golfers are always trying to do what the golf pro says because they're limited in their hip and their lower back is friendly and tries to help out. But that's oftentimes the root source of the issue. So limited hip range of motion can be a culprit of lower back pain. Let's talk about the second culprit, which can be overall uniform balance of the body. I said it in a flashy way, but it's really balance. All right, so Kayleigh's going to stand up here, and we're going to show a balance test. We call it the single leg balance test. Walk us through how we assess our athletes.
Okay, so what we look for them to do, first of all, they're going to bring one knee up in the air. Their eyes are going to be open, and we're just going to walk around and look and see if they can actually do that. If they can maintain balance with their eyes open, you would put the foot down, get them to bring it back up again, but this time close their eyes and see how long they can last.
Now, PGA and LPGA norms for this test are 15 to 20 seconds. They're out of the world centered. Sometimes we have to stop the test because we're losing money after 15 or 20 seconds. Human norms, if you take all the data for humans across all age ranges, approximately 10 seconds is human norm. So when you're up doing this test that Kayleigh just showed you, if you can't hold your balance in a very vertical column without falling or hopping or grabbing onto a pole, and you didn't hit that 10-second mark, we have improvements that we can make. And would you say this is a fast or slow responding exercise or parameter when doing exercises?
When doing it, it's very fast responding.
Yes, so if you're looking to get better at stuff, this is huge. Now, why is balance important? Balance is not just the ability of the feet to maintain upward support. When we actually balance, go into that one more time, you're going to notice Kayleigh's body is tall. Now put the leg down, and up one more time. She lost 0 height. That means she's maintaining her core. She is actually using the entire center of her body as a crux or a focus point to maintain her body from swaying all over the place. This is a huge asset in maintaining balance. Translating to golf, you can do more with rotary, lateral, and vertical forces if you know how to balance. I always say balance is the glue that holds all other fitness characteristics together. Strength, power, speed, endurance. Is there any more?
No, you covered them all.
Balance is the glue. So we're going to talk a little bit more about exercises that we can do inside of that world to help improve your ability as well. All right, Kayleigh, so if our balance is less than 10 seconds with our eyes open, and we're not at that LPGA or PGA norm of 15, and we can improve, let's talk about some simple exercises or drills that we can do at home. Why don't we start with single leg balance with a twist?
So we're just going to come up into that single leg balance position. Ideally, if we could get the knee at 90 degrees, that's perfect. I don't mind if it starts a little bit less. Up nice and tall, like Lance said. All we're going to do now with the ball is just taking it over our heads and then in front of us. Okay, so you're just passing the ball while maintaining height, while maintaining good foot contact with the ground.
One of the things that Kayleigh's doing here is she's challenging her entire system by having something moving. Whether it's the ball going overhead, out in front, you can add behind the back if you want. It's slightly adjusting her center of balance. So her entire system from left ankle to left hip to her core, to her glutes, to her spine has to compensate in real time to make sure we get this. Naturally, we're going to switch from left side to right side and work both angles on this. Now, tell us a little bit about the foot. So when you're doing this, what type of feels do you want to have in your foot?
So I like to think of the bottom of the foot like a tripod, like the camera tripod has 2 prongs at the front and 1 at the back.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So I like to think of those 3 points being in contact with the ground at all times. And if I'm feeling like I'm losing one of them, then I really put a focus on that and push down maybe a little bit harder on that area.
So just to reinforce, all 3 points on the bottom of your feet should have the exact same amount of pressure going to it. If you find one of your points losing pressure, have a mental awareness of it. What that does is helps recreate the stability of the arch in your foot. For those of you with flat feet, well, this is one little exercise that we can do to stabilize that arch. And yes, a flat arch can lead to back pain. As we discussed earlier, hip range of motion, when limited, is a major red flag and causation for back pain. So one of the things that I like to do is implement strategies, exercises, drills, whatever you like to call them, to help you get more range of motion out of your hips in the simplest possible fashion. So this is our TV workout. During a commercial on a football game or a basketball game, Kayleigh, what can we do to help develop more hip range of motion?
So I like to just call these hip drops. Some people call them windshield wipers. And all I'm doing is I have my hands behind me and I do have weight on my hands here. And all I do is let gravity do its job and just drop my hips to one side and then the other side. And you will notice that one side might be a little bit easier than the other. That's absolutely fine. And you are just letting them fall one side to the other side.
Are both of your tailbones touching the ground when you're doing this?
Yes, sir.
All right, so for people who are limited, what would you do if one tries to pop up off the ground?
I wouldn't let it pop up. So say if this side feels like it wants to come up like this, I would pay attention to that feeling. And the moment it feels like it's going to come up, stop the leg.
What she's saying there is don't be a hero on this exercise. Only go with what your body gives you, and via repetition, we're going to start to see slow increases in the quantity of range of motion you have. Is there a progression? If this is too easy, how can we kick it?
Simple progression would be come off your hands, concentrate on keeping yourself upright, and the hands can be in any position you want to, and then just let the legs fall side to side again.
I assure you this looks easy, but it's much more difficult than she's making it seem. So hip drops, hip windshield wipers are a great way to lubricate and get the hips more range of motion, which will take the pressure off the lower back. Lower back pain can come to us at any time in this beautiful game of golf that we love so much. Understanding that oftentimes when lower back pain shows up, it is a symptom rather than the source or the cause of the disease. So understanding a little bit more about what's going on above or below the source of the injury or the back pain is very important. And learning how to understand the balance concepts and the hip range of motion concepts can save you a lot of trouble down the line. If you think about it, if you could avoid back pain for the rest of your life just by doing some simple movement prep like we just discussed, it goes a long way, and I would encourage everyone to look more into it.